The
It's
video
8 o'clock.
recording?
It is 8 o'clock, so we are going to
On
get
the dot.
started. Welcome to ATL Comic Convention. This is the What If TWD-style panel. We are going to be talking about Maggie Rhee and her possible descent into villainy, if that's the case. My name is Hanako Ricks. I am the creator and host of the Fandom Hybrid podcast. We are a pop culture podcast that discusses TV shows, films, the Atlanta convention scene, and the Walking Dead universe is one of our big discussion topics. I'm going to let my co-panelists, introduce themselves, and then we're going to get started.
I am Michelle Liggins. I'm also on the Fandom Hybrid with this young, beautiful lady right here and this one right here. And I'm excited to be here.
Where's my beautiful?
I said beautiful.
No, you said beautiful in this one.
Okay, I'll start over. Hi, my name is Michelle Liggins. I'm a co-panelist on the Fandom Hybrid. I'm with these beautiful ladies right here. Talking about The Walking Dead. Yes.
I am Casey Frierson. I am the resident Michelle Stan, and I'm with these beautiful ladies as well.
Okay, so what we're going to do, I don't have a panel outline because I like to start the discussion off and just kind of see where the discussion goes. This is an open forum. We like audience participation. So if you guys have anything you would like to say, we just ask that you raise your hand so that we're not talking over each other or we're not talking over you. And also, because Maggie can kind of be divisive sometimes when we're discussing her, especially in terms of her relationship to Negan, it can get a little ugly. So the only thing I ask is that we respect each other's opinions, even if we don't agree. Okay. So I came up with this idea for this panel because as we were discussing The Walking Dead and the relationship as it correlates to Maggie and Negan, we started noticing some things about Maggie Rhee's character. Usually when we meet the villains of the show, they're already like in their villain arc, and that's how we meet them. And then we have to kind of go back and deconstruct to see what brought them to that point. And Maggie's character is a little bit different because we meet her as a young woman. We meet her as a rebellious young woman. She's doing some things that she might not need to be doing, but it's nothing evil. And then through all of these different traumatic events in her life, we start to see her personality and her character take a little bit of a darker turn. And I feel like if she doesn't get put in check, she could possibly be the next Walking Dead villain. And that is something that I want us to openly discuss to see how we feel about that, whether or not that's something you think that's possible. Am I being too hard on her? We're just going to have a fun little discussion and explore the possibilities. So we're going to start off. We're going to talk about Dead City a little bit. So at the end of the Walking Dead main show, we have a conversation with Maggie and Negan where she tells him that she sees where he's trying to be a changed man, he's trying to be different, but she can never forgive him for what he did to her husband and in essence what he did to her. And then you have Dead City, which takes place several years down the line. And it's almost like from the time Maggie hits the screen, she has this open animosity towards Negan again with no context as to what may have happened to bring her back to that point. So I want your thoughts, first of all, about the way Maggie was presented in Dead City. How do you feel? Do you feel that she is justified in the way that she treats Negan? And yeah, let's start there.
It's the deep breath.
Oh, because I have issues with Maggie. I do. And my issues being this is having a little bit of a counseling background. I guess I have issues because she needs to do some work and she's very stagnant and she's not. I understand that you went through a traumatic ordeal and it was really traumatic because you're losing your loved one at the same time you're going through not knowing if you're going to be able to carry this baby because they were getting her help. and he dies right in front of you. I do think it would be different if he would die like on a mission versus right next to her. However, this trauma is holding her back and it's holding her down. It's affecting the relationship she has with Herschel. It's affecting the relationship she has with almost everybody, even the original crew that she's with. She has distancing herself. She has distrust. I mean, it's a lot of things going on with Maggie, and I want her just to stop and say, you know what, I need to get this shit in check so that I can be here with my son and give him a future as best I can. So that's my problem. Yeah, she still should have issues with Negan, but I do believe in that at some point, for your sake, you have to forgive. No, you don't have to forget. Okay, and maybe you may push him off a bridge one day, but you still need to like forgive to get your own healing going on so that you can help your son who is affected by your trauma. So I really need for everyone to stop like, oh, she's the widow. We got to take care of her. F that. Okay, we're gonna stop apologizing. This was something that happened. She has killed other people, family members too, and no one is doing the same thing to her. So let's move on. That's just my feelings. I need her to do the work.
Okay.
I need her to get better. Thank you.
You're welcome. I agree with that somewhat. She do need to, parts of her need to let it go because it's getting old and you can only be angry for so long about the same thing. I agree because to me, when The Walking Dead ended, I felt there was a little more resolve than what came back as Dead City, even though we ultimately find out why she did what she did. But it seems like once The Walking Dead ended and her and Herschel went off and Negan went off to their own separate lives or whatever, there was at least a peace between them. But then when we get to Dead City, it's like, I'm hunting you down. No matter what, you gonna help me. I mean, granted, we don't find out till the later episodes of why she. But again, like we discussed yesterday, had you asked him, he would have did it. You know what I mean? And he is at a point where he has changed, but Maggie sort of changed at the end, but then she reverted back to, I hate you again. You know what I mean? I mean, she always gonna hate him, but that outward hate where you get on my nerves. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But you need my goddamn help. You know, you need me to help you. So like at the end of the day, like some of that you have to be able to let go of a little bit, at least even until you get what you want. But Maggie her hatred is turning her into a crappy person.
Right, which is leading to what you're saying about heading down the path of being a villain because she has so much anger. And the thing is, it's causing her not to care about the people around her, their safety. Like, we had this whole group that you encountered, and then they're just dead, and you don't care. I mean, you don't live.
She barely cared about Jenny.
You know that Jenny was running around there. You're like, oh, okay, well, let's just throw her bunny in the trash. So we won't even know that she burn it. So nobody would know she was there. I mean, like you have no compassion or empathy for others. So
only for Herschel, who could care less about her.
Yeah.
He's so irritated with her. He like us. He's like, oh my God.
Now, do you think that the fact that the Croat took her son in order to get to Negan, do you think that reignited her anger towards Negan, and that's why we see her the way we do in the first episode? Like, again, when we saw her at the end of The Walking Dead, she seemed to be not necessarily at peace, but like you said, she had reached the resolve that, okay, I'm not going to actively try to kill you. I can see that you're making changes. If you want to stay here, that's fine. That takes a lot for that person. So to see her go from that to the way she was, do you think it was because of the Croat taking Herschel and forcing her to bring Negan back into her life?
Yes, it brought back. She probably buried it, but she still should have kind of dealt with it because it's going to come up. Because you can tell that even throughout the series, she had that flashback that we all had to encounter again just to remind us why, what, yeah, we didn't like him, like why we don't like him. But it did bring it back. So I can see now, thinking about it, I can see why it started off with her being angry Dead City because she had to revisit and talk and get this help from this man that she didn't no longer want to talk to anymore. But at the same time, this is where, okay, we need to put some work in here because he's going to live for a long time. So I'm going to have to encounter him. So I'm going to have to deal with him a little bit more often. So I have to make this work. But I do feel that brought back the trauma.
But I still think she could have went about it a different way.
Yeah. Because at this point, he'll do anything for her. So you can just pretty much say, I need you on a silver platter. So I get my son back.
Even if she presented it that way, he still would have did it.
Yeah, I agree. You guys can. This is not one of those where you have to wait till the end of the panel. Raise your hand.
I think that the Croat doing what he did brought a little bit of it back. And I think she's a really good example of if you don't forgive, you're not hurting that person as much as you're hurting yourself. And so, yes, she maybe went on and they were doing whatever they were doing separate. But because at the end it was a little bit, okay, yeah, maybe. But she didn't really. I think she was just kind of like, okay, whatever. Okay.
Right.
And so she didn't, because like you said, she needs to forgive him. That doesn't mean let him back into your life and think he's the best thing in the world and love him and want to hang out with him all the time. That's not what that means. But forgive him enough for herself, because it's, like you said, poisoning everything around her. So I think she's a really good example of, the Croat taking Herschel brought a little bit of that back, but I think if she had really forgiven him, maybe then she really would have said, this is what happened, help me.
Yeah.
And he would have.
Yeah, he would have.
And I think it's very interesting also, like we keep going back to that last conversation she had with him after they dealt with the Commonwealth. And she literally specifically says to him, I don't want to hate you anymore because I don't want my son to see that someone has this kind of hold over me. And then the next time we see her, she's done the exact opposite. Like, and we see what kind of effect that has had with her relationship with her son, because her son thinks that she only came to rescue him because part of that bargain was for her to get back at Negan, or to, kind of give him what he deserves, or whatever the case may be, with turning him into the Croat. So it's kind of like, you started out saying, I don't want to hate you because this is what will happen, and then you let that happen. It's kind of like when you look at the villain arcs that we've dealt with in The Walking Dead, even with Negan, going back to his origin story and seeing how he became the way he became, it always starts from that unresolved anger, that unresolved trauma, feeling the need to have control over your life, and then it kind of takes a life on its own. Yeah.
Just to echo what she says, it makes me think of the old saying that anger or hate is like drinking poison.
Yeah.
It feels a lot like
Right.
Yeah. So Maggie's name in The Walking Dead is kind of synonymous with Negan because of the way that Negan's character was introduced, what he did as far as killing Glenn and all of this. Do you guys, when you look at Negan's origin story, what we've seen in the Here's Negan, and what the glimpses we've seen of his past, and knowing what we know about Maggie, having followed her from the beginning, do you see any similarities between her and Negan's character as far as the paths that they have gone on so far?
I think a lot of her, she has sneaky ways that we saw, like when he was, I think, refresh my memory. She was going to give Negan something, and then she saw that he had Luther's bomb. She had something in her pocket, and she was going to give it to him. And then even with her hiding the fact that Jenny was there, and like it's all these little things that you could divulge, but in her mind, if I tell you this, you're not going to help me. You know what I mean? So I'm manipulating you to get what I need out of you. So she's in the beginning stages of manipulation, where That's what most of our villains do. I'm gonna manipulate you as much as I can until I get what I need out of you, and then from there I'll decide what, if anything, I'm gonna do with you. And with her, even with those little things, those little things, where now it can go into something a little bigger. Like ultimately, your ulterior motive was to get me here to trade me for your kid.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? So it's like all of these little things culminate into you have this grand. Now you're a villain. But we already know Maggie gonna kill whoever she needs to kill. Like she has no qualms about it. You gotta die.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So Maggie already a villain. She's just a villain on our side. I mean, she already a villain.
Yeah.
Like if you look at it,
Yeah.
she is. If it was somebody on the other side, they'd look at her like, stay away from her. I would.
Just like the what was it, the trainee, the deputy trainee,
Uh-huh.
when they first got to the bar, he was like, "Is this the same woman that's been breaking arms up and down the coast looking for him?"
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was
So-
like, oh hell no.
Yes. So
So she already a villain.
right, and you were saying the parallel. One, we do need more information about Negan's story to where he ended up being the leader of the Savior. However, if we just want to just look at what we know right now, yes, there are some connections between the two of them. And I just lost my train of thought. Bring that back. One being, okay, yes, you lost someone that you truly loved. It was just in different circumstances.
Mhm.
However, with Maggie, it's more of, again, it's still just dealing with that PTSD.
Yeah.
And it's just definitely that. And her, just, she slowly is becoming, sorry guys, I just lost my train of thought. She is becoming
it's
name.
cold in here, so
She is like how Negan was Negan. Everyone was Negan. Everyone took on that persona, Negan in the Saviors. She did take on the widow. She is not that Maggie that we saw at the farmhouse.
Okay.
So that's why I wanted to make that connection. Like she's the widow. So like you're saying, like when people hear the widow, they're like, ooh.
Mm-hmm.
And now when they heard Negan before, they were like, ooh. So it is very similar. Because again, she at least has someone she cares about walking around with her. Negan didn't, except the bad.
right.
She's
Which was a
Herschel.
reminder of his
Yeah,
wife.
so
Okay,
those are the only things they care about, and no one else they cared about.
Mm-hmm.
that's an interesting comparison. Kind of piggybacking on what you were saying, I think the interesting thing for me is, like you said, in Dead City, she had all of these instances where she was mad at Negan for supposedly not divulging information, and she was really hypocritical about it. Like she got upset because of him not telling her about Luther when he really hadn't had an opportunity to tell her, whereas she had plenty of time to tell him about the fact that Jenny was on the island,
Right.
and she never divulged it. You know, the other thing that I think about is the fact that constantly throughout the 6 episodes of Dead City, she lied to him over and over and over again. And if you were here for our Negan panel last night, one of the things that we talked about is the fact that Negan never lies. He's very upfront about what he's going to do, how he's going to do it, and why he's going to do it. You may not like it, but he's going to be very upfront. And when you think about it in that sense, it almost makes her seem a little worse than him, because she's, like you said, she has sneaky ways about her, and she's not truthful. And then the other thing I think about is when it comes to the people that they hurt and the people that they kill. And we understand this is a zombie apocalypse. There are going to be instances where you may have to hurt someone or kill someone, one, to protect yourself or to protect the people around you, and two, also maybe to keep some order. Now, I think the interesting thing about Maggie and Negan is when we first meet Negan, it's because he's searching for them because they've come in and killed a whole bunch of his people, like literally snuck in and killed his people while they were asleep. And if you think
Because
about,
didn't he even say, I didn't even know anything about you guys?
yeah,
Yeah.
and he didn't. He
Yeah.
had no reason to, because his group's only interaction with that group was Daryl, Abraham, and Sasha, and they were on the road by themselves. So there's no reason to think that they were associated with this group. He had no idea the Alexandrians existed. Maggie was the one who suggested killing the people in the outpost because Gregory was giving them half of their or some of their food. And when she made the deal with Gregory, he was like, "Well, I'll give you some of the food." She was like, "No, we're going to do the same deal that Negan has. You give us, we'll go in there and take care of them, but you got to give us half." To me, that's when she started her villain arc. I mean, does anybody else have any other instances or disagree with?
So I kind of I kind of think that she is expecting him to fill that role of like Herschel's protector because he took Glenn away from her. So she is expecting him to fill that role. She fears that if, like you guys said, if she's upfront about it, he's going to kind of bolt, or he's gonna either he's gonna flip on her essentially. But yeah, I kind of when we were kind of first sitting down and talking about everything, I remember there was a period of time where as she was kind of rising to be in charge of her, I think it was Alexandria.
Hilltop.
Hilltop.
Yeah.
As she was kind of coming to that point, there was a point in time where she was kind of like, nobody comes. It was, the gates were shut. Even the people that she loved and cared about were not supposed to. I kind of saw a bit of kind of going on there, and I think you're kind of right. She's kind of going down the path of taking the spot.
Right. You were going to say something?
Yeah, so Maggie's not necessarily, I don't think Maggie's that unique in the sense that she kind of has periods in the show where she kind of goes over the edge or kind of lets her dark side take over. We see that happen with Rick, with a lot of characters. But one thing that's really the only thing that separates those characters from a lot of the villains is that they have that sense of family and community that kind of reins them in, brings them back to the good side. But we see it over the course of the main show that Maggie kind of rejects that and like leaves, goes off on her own. And it's kind of interesting because we've been rewatching the show, and we actually just watched an episode where right before Alexandria got invaded by like the wolves, I think they were called. She's talking to Deanne, and she says, like, the people need to see that you're still here, and like, for them, when she's still dealing with Reg's death. Then later on, when she can't get over Glenn's death, she's not really there for the people herself.
Right.
Yeah.
But she doesn't allow herself to be reined back in to her good side.
Yeah. So this was a question we had on our podcast when we were discussing Dead City. Out of all the people, and of course we didn't know this at the beginning, we didn't know the Croat basically took Herschel because he was like, "I need you to get Negan to me." But we were trying to figure out, one, where did you move the Hilltop to that was so far away from all of your other people? Like, you literally just came back and y'all went through all this Commonwealth stuff. Why would you move the Hilltop so far away from them? And two, why are none of your people, your family, quote unquote, helping you to find your son? Because even though we know this is roughly 5 years from the end of the show, I'm sure if you had called Daryl, Carol, Aaron, Ezekiel, Jerry, any of those people and said, "Hey, this dude took my son. Can you come help me?" They would not have hesitated to come and find her. So we were trying to figure out, like, where's your family, Maggie? Why are you in this situation again where you can't ask these people to assist you? And I thought that was very, very telling of kind of the path that she was starting to take. Because if you don't have those people around you, like we saw with Negan, once Lucille was gone, everything that kept him in check was done. He had nobody left to impress. He had nobody left to protect. So at this point, he was like, "Okay, all bets are off. I'm about to turn into this person in order to make sure that I'm never in this vulnerable position again." And I feel like you kind of see that happening with Maggie, that you don't have these people around you. Even with the new Hilltop, I would think that at least Elijah and maybe Lydia would be with you because Elijah came with you from Meridian. And he's the only person that's left from Meridian. We don't even see that, him in the new show. So it's kind of like, did you isolate yourself from everybody?
Yes, she did.
I think the only person I recognized was the chick who came to get Jenny, and I think she was from Oceanside. But again, you weren't that close with Oceanside. You were already gone when those relationships started forming. So it's like, what are you doing, Maggie? And I just really feel like she's kind of separating herself so that she doesn't have to be accountable for the things that she's doing in regards to Negan and whatever else. The other interesting thing as far as Maggie and how she handles things, and I just thought about it. We talk about Negan and the stuff that he's done, and his whole killing of Abraham and Glenn was in retaliation for what they did. They killed a whole bunch of his people, and he was like, okay, I got to show you guys that it's not okay for you to do that. You think about Gregory in the Hilltop. Gregory felt threatened by Maggie because she was coming in. People were liking her. People were kind of suggesting that maybe she should be the new leader. Gregory felt threatened by that and attempted to have her and Herschel killed. He didn't get a trial. He didn't get any, she literally executed him in front of everybody like, oh, you guys have to see that there are consequences.
Oh, wow.
Who does that sound like?
Right.
And it's like, I literally, while we were sitting here discussing that just popped in my head, and I was like, oh, wait.
That's another parallel.
That's
Yes.
another parallel.
Mhm.
But even with, and again, I'm going back to Negan because that is the antagonist that has brought out this worst version of her.
Mhm.
Okay? Even with him, when it came to the circle, he was only going to kill one person. Every single person just about that was in that circle had something to do with that outpost, except maybe Eugene. I don't think Eugene was there. But most of them had a part in that. He could have killed all of them, and I feel like he would have been justified because y'all snuck into his house. Killed these people while they were asleep.
Fighting chance.
Not a fighting chance at all. And again, this was something that Maggie suggested to Gregory in order for her to make sure that her community wasn't starving. Guess who else that sounds like? It sounds like Negan and the Saviors.
Maggie already the villain.
So
She's already a villain.
And I think the thing is, we don't really look at her as a villain because we followed her story from the beginning. So we see how she got from point A to point Z because we see B, C, D. We see everything in the middle with people like the governor, with people like Negan, with people like Alpha. Like we get a little bit of their backstory. You had a very visual reaction to Alpha.
Every time I saw her on screen, I didn't see you.
Yeah, but I mean, we kind of see what they went through, but it's retroactive. Like when we're introduced to them, they're already in that villain phase, and I think it's very interesting because most people will default and still say that Maggie deserves her anger. Which, yes, you deserve your anger. You do. That was your husband, but at the same time, you kind of asked for it. I hate to say it. I love Maggie. That's part of our crew. But if you look at things very objectively,
It's her karma.
Even if you come into the story now, like Dead City was where you came into, which would be very difficult. You see Maggie now. How would you feel about her? Take away the episode where we saw the flashback. Well, no, you don't know that. You just know that Negan killed her husband, but the way she's acting now, how would you feel about Maggie?
I mean, even the way that they introduced her in Dead City, she has the slick back hair. She has the makeup that makes her look a little bit more rough or on the edge. It was very odd because, and then she's coming in. She's faking like she's drunk. She's trying to get information and not doing a very good job of it. Like, she felt like a villain. Like, if I didn't know anything about her backstory, I would think that she was the bad guy. She was looking for somebody.
bad guy.
Well, and I get that, but what
She
I'm
is.
saying,
I mean, only thing that makes her, the only difference is we have a history with her.
she's family.
That's
Like,
that's the
yeah,
only difference. So that's the only reason you would be partial to that is because you do have the family aspect of it. But outside of that, she's a bad person. She's a villain. She has all the markers of a villain. We just not calling her that because she's on our team. But she's a villain.
Like
Yeah.
she didn't even care when
None.
Negan was telling her about Annie
Yeah.
and their child. She was like, "Oh, okay, next."
Yeah. She
Like,
already there.
She's like, "I don't care."
Like, she's already to the point where can she be saved? That's the real question.
I think that is
Because-
a real question.
And
I
then
think she can
and then
be.
from that, now we have to go on same way we did with Negan. Can she be redeemed? Can she come? Can she?
What do you
Because
guys
you
think?
already see how her son feel about her, and he was like, huh, you know.
what would he
I think-
become?
That's what I was going to say.
That's the next
What-
question.
what's-
But,
yeah.
but
What's
So
gonna
yeah,
it's
happen
like-
to him?
Everything we just had this conversation about karma. Everything that you do trickle down. Now you see how her son acted, and God forbid he turned his back on her. Then she gonna become a supervillain. Because now I don't have nothing. I don't care about nothing. I have nothing else to hold on to my last bit of humanity. Fuck everything. That would be the thing. That would be the thing that would push her over the edge. Now we got a supervillain. Give her a cake.
But then the
It's over.
sad thing is she would still blame Negan for that as
Oh,
well.
absolutely.
Yeah.
She's still no accountability.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Which is the hallmark of a woman.
Yeah.
That is true.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I believe that I think she has. So after you know, you were kind of talking about how she executed Gregory. I think she kind of started playing by a set of rules that she didn't read the entire guide to.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because with Negan, he was very clear. He was like, "Look,
Yeah.
be all right with you. I'm gonna let you know if I'm gonna kill you." Very outspoken about what his intentions.
He's very upfront. Like, he doesn't beat around the bush. He doesn't sugarcoat anything, and he doesn't go the long way. He's very straight and to the point.
Right, and so I think she kind of sees, or she sees that he's using intimidation. She is going to use kind of like trickery instead of intimidation because she's, you know, as of right now, she's just one person. She has no big group to back her, as where with Negan, he was known for being violent. He was capable of these things. So I think she's kind of trying to play by like a survival of the fittest rule book at this point. You know, it's kind of like it's me and my son against the world. Like you guys said, you know, she's not bringing anyone in, and I think it's because you know, someone that's close to her could stop her from making certain decisions. That she's kind of over it.
Right.
She's like, I've kind of seen both sides of this, you know, world, and I realize that sometimes you just have to shoot people in the face in order to get what you want.
Yeah.
And she's worried that, you know, that's one of the reasons she doesn't have people with her is because they would be like, look, you know, tie him up, you know, leave him in the woods. He doesn't know which way you went. So like that whole deal on the farm. But I think that's a lot of it is she's kind of playing by a rule book that she doesn't completely understand. She's trying to play by, you know, Negan's rule book. Right. She's not.
But she's not even following his rule book because, I mean, again, if you look at all of the different examples that we've seen of Negan and his leadership and the things that he does, let's talk about Dwight and Sherry. Why did he do with Dwight and Sherry what he did? Because they made an agreement for Sherry's sister to become his wife. And because they decided they didn't want to do that, they not only ran away with her, they stole from him. Okay? And then they decided to come back with their tail tucked between their legs. And he had to make an example. Like, you can't just steal from me and then come back and I embrace you with open arms. There has to be some consequence. With the scavengers, because they betrayed him, they went back on their word and left. He told Simon, go kill one of them. He's always very upfront with the things that he does, and his decisions always have like there he's doing it as a consequence because you guys didn't hold to your end of the bargain. You broke your word. Again, Negan is very straight and to the point.
And so that's where I think is he's when he says those things, people know those things.
Right.
He's very deliberate. He's very like, look, this is how it's going to be.
Yeah.
And I feel like she can't be as direct as Negan is because no one would really find her intimidating.
Mm-hmm.
And so I feel like with that being said, she's kind of using, back doors essentially to get what she wants.
Right.
She's,
which is what villains do.
Exactly.
And also I agree with you that she also could be doing that because she's like, I'm going to be doing the opposite of what he's doing because what he was doing was evil. What I'm doing is not.
Exactly.
So I'm not doing those things. I'm doing trickery. That's different.
Right.
Yeah, I'm not so bad.
Okay, so here's my question as well, because this is something that was introduced in the main show. We never got any real resolution to it. I'm still wondering what it was that she did to Pope and the Reavers that made him so focused on trying to kill her to the point where he was willing to sacrifice his own people, the people that he claimed God sent him to deliver and protect. You're sacrificing these people for this one woman. What did she do?
It don't matter what she did. She did something villainous.
That's what I'm wondering because, and I understand. Yes, the Reavers, they came in, they took over your community, they killed some of your people. I get it,
but it's a reason.
She
Ain't nobody
did
just
something.
wandering around like, hey, let me go kill that community over there. No.
And see,
No,
that's the thing.
no, even that far into the apocalypse, nobody was doing that. You know what I mean? Only reason I'm attacking you, I'm over here minding my business, and I don't have no reason to beef with you unless you come to me with a beef. And now
I don't know if I will say that because we have seen. I mean,
who just
like
randomly came, other than like the wolves, who just randomly came and said, "I'm gonna have beef with you."
But I mean, that's what I'm saying. We do have groups that are just kind of random like that will just come in and take your stuff. If Pope, from Pope's mindset, what we find out or what we hear, what we learn, he thinks it's his mission to save this group of people. So he's like, oh, I've heard about these people. They have this land, whatever. We're going to go take it. Because I mean, one of the things that we've said, Maggie, all of her communities that she goes to, they thrive. But then also, you hear it from her own admission. Every time Maggie goes to a new community, that community falls. Why? It
Because
can't
she's bad luck. She is a villain, and karma follows her everywhere she goes.
See, that's the thing I'm wondering about. Like, is it something that she is doing
And
that's
even
drawing
like
attention?
even like Michelle said, she has the name as the widow. You know what I'm saying? So I'm sure there are stories far and wide about her. You know what I mean? Her whatever she's done in the time that she was gone with Georgie. Because apparently she didn't stay with Georgie; she left at some point. Because how would you end up with these other cities, and to end up in Meridian? So you left there, and you had some escapades and some time in between before Pope found you or whatever y'all circumstance is. So she wasn't off just let me build towers and plant seeds. She wasn't doing just that. You know what I mean? So it we don't know what it is. Hopefully, if she's ever on the panel, that need to be the question that's asked. Yeah. No, seriously, because we don't know the answer. We never did get an answer for that. But it ain't building towers.
I just don't think she's an effective leader.
No.
And she was raised under the leadership of, I'm going to start with, she was raised under leadership with her dad, and then with Shane/Rick. That was just for a moment. And then Rick, and then herself, and then dealing with Deanna. Yeah, I forgot about that group. And then Negan. So I think she's like combining, like it starts off good, where you come in and everyone's like, oh, she's so great. Like she's implementing these different things that we need to do. And then it just turns to shit afterwards. Like there's no completion.
Yeah.
There's the person with all the great ideas but can't implement the ideas.
Mhm.
Like she can see the outcome, she can see what we need to do, but she in between.
There's a gap.
Right. So I have no idea what she did to that man.
But it had to
killed
be
some
bad
people that was
enough
close to
where
him.
he
But
sacrificed his whole. He didn't care who was down there. Shoot them fireworks off. He didn't care who was down there. As long as I get her, and then your aim was so bad you didn't get her. Like you missed out.
yeah.
But it's like when you think
So,
about
it's-
her leadership style, like you were talking about, we talked about the fact that she has isolated people. That it seems like right now she's completely isolated from her other people. Now, if you compare her to another person who has done that within the show, Michonne, after
Hold on.
the no. Let me finish. After the events that happened with Jocelyn, when she stole all the kids and Michonne had to go and find her, Michonne also isolated
Oh,
her
yeah,
community from everybody else because she felt like she needed to protect her people. But she never went to the extremes that it looks like Maggie has gone to. Like she still, like Daryl was still coming in. She still had Carol. She still kept her people around her. She just kept them isolated
away,
instead of with all of the other people. You know, even to the point where Tara left because she didn't agree with the way Michonne was handling things. What do you think is the difference between the way that Michonne handled that isolation from the other people and the way that Maggie has handled it? Like, why do you think there's a difference to the point where Maggie seems to be going on this extreme and Michonne never did?
Because even though Michonne separated everybody, she still had the council. And so there were still people that close to her who she could talk to about these things. Maggie ain't sharing nothing with nobody. She's making all the decisions for herself, based on herself, based on what she wants. Whereas Michonne would at least, okay, this is what it is. The other communities want to have this charter where we do whatever and have the family day and all these things. So it wasn't her making a sole decision like, nope, we're not going to do it. I don't want to do it. I'm trying to keep us safe. We're not going to do it. No, y'all decide. This is what's presented. What do we decide as a people? Whereas Maggie is just like, we're going to take over. We're going to do this. We're going to do this. You know, Maggie's making the choice for everyone. It don't matter whether you agree with her or not. I'm going to do what I said I'm going to do. I'm going to do it my way.
With dictator. And
Yeah,
my
dictator.
simple answer is love. Maggie is missing love. You can interpret that all you want. But she's missing love.
Just
I mean,
can't throw that out there.
Well, she kind of is, though. I mean, everyone on
her
the
son
show
don't even love
like
her.
changes somewhat with love. Even Negan, he was moving towards, changing. And then with the love of Annie and the upcoming child, he was like, I really see what I did to Maggie.
But
I see
you know
that I
what?
sacrificed myself. Hey, just go with me.
No. I agree with that, but I also think maybe for Negan it was even before that because he befriended Judith and Judith treated him as a human being with no judgment.
Yeah.
She was like, I've heard the stories
And showed him
and
love.
yeah.
Okay. Michonne had love around her. I mean, she had the walls up, but that love was, keeping them at bay. Maggie has no one, and she's not letting anyone in. And she has a detachment from her son, actually. Like, she loves him because that's her son. But I'm now starting to think that is she loving Herschel or she's loving the extension of Glenn?
Okay. Yeah.
Mm.
Ooh.
So that will also determine how you behave. So that's what I'm going with love.
Go ahead.
Question. So we're talking about, like you said with Michonne, she had the council, a lot of the themes of like having love, people to rein you in. Do you think that there's a character already existing or a character that we could maybe meet? Someone that would do that for Maggie, or is it gonna have to take Maggie herself? That's finally gonna come to a breaking point.
Maggie
where
might
she's
be a
gonna
little too
rein
far
herself
gone.
in.
But the one that would have to do it would be Herschel.
That's what
It
I'm
would
thinking.
have
If
to be
he
Herschel.
grows up, maybe.
Yeah.
And
But
can.
he at a point where he ain't even dealing with her right now.
Right, like he's
Like
so,
he cussed her out in that car so good, she was like, you know. and he's like, I can't deal with you the way that you are.
Do you think she's
Like-
a lost cause at this point? Can she be saved? I guess is my question.
I believe she can.
I think she can, but I
She
think
can. It's gonna take a lot of work,
Right.
Mhm.
but she's gonna do it for the sake of her son, which is her
Yes.
point of doing everything. I'm doing it for my son. You know, he would have to be the one to be the catalyst for that in order for her to get to a point where she can be like, okay. Because technically, at the end of Dead City, it looked like she want to go try and save Negan, but yeah,
I'm
So-
never gonna trust that.
it's
so. I kind of feel like before Dead City, I think I would have said maybe Negan would be the one to pull her out, because if
Okay.
you look at those last few episodes of the main show, when she really is about to go half cocked on everything, she's about to go kill Pamela Milton, she's about to do this. Negan is the one who pulls her back.
Right.
You know, even with the Reapers, when she shot those two Reapers and shot Leah in cold blood after she had already told them that they could leave, you saw the way Negan was looking at her. He was like, look, you are going down a path that I am familiar with. I don't want to see you do this. I mean, he even offered to go and kill Pamela Milton so that she wouldn't have to, because he was like, if you go down this path, there's no coming back. And like we said, Negan, it took a lot for him to get to where he is now. I'm not saying he's fully rehabilitated, but you do see the change in the character and in the person that he's become, whether that has to do with his wife or child, or whether it has to do with, you know what, I don't have to be a complete dick in order to, one, survive, two, protect other people. Like, he's starting to look in the mirror and say, okay, you know what, I see where I went wrong, and I may still be able to correct that. He has the advantage of looking on the outside in at Maggie and seeing,